Hey, this is Gilgamesh. I want to talk about this movie, Backrooms. I saw it twice on this last Tuesday, and I got to tell you, I actually really enjoyed this movie, and the whole story started with a creepy pasta about where it showed a picture of yellow, you know, and the guy said, if you're not careful, clip, you'll misstep and fall into what's called, well, he didn't know what it was called. He just said it's yellow with a musty smell. And he said, if you're not careful, you feel like you're being watched, and even if you don't make a sound, they know you're there. So that's essentially where, and Kane Parsons, when he was 19, started a YouTube series on his channel called Kane Pixels Backrooms. And so this is in that timeline, but it's also its own independent movie. It takes place in the 90s, and we begin with a worker who and it's this guy right here, Warren. Yeah. And he's looking around, freaking out, and he's trying to figure out where the hell he is inside. And he starts hearing this loud sound of something. It looks like something's chasing him. And he's looking around trying to get the hell out. That's what makes this kind of scary, is that what's in the back rooms, it's explained that there is at least something explained about this in this movie, but yet no one knows what the back rooms are. And so he's running around and he finds equipment, and he is trying to communicate with someone, and hears it again, and so he's running, and eventually, whatever it is finds him, and we don't see what happens. Then the title Backrooms comes up, and then we go to Clark, played by Chitakio Ejiofor. I think his parents were from Nigeria. They immigrated to the UK. He plays Clark, a man who's runs a furniture store, and he is dealing with a divorce. He's not a very happy man. If you've ever been in a relationship, anybody, man or woman, you're the breadwinner, and your partner kind of like lives off of you. And in this, his wife is going to law school, and she wasn't working, and they wanted kids. He said it costs a lot to raise kids, but he was the only breadwinner, and he was pissed at the wife took the house from him and kicked him out, and so he goes to therapy to his therapist, Mary. And, he complains about his life. And Mary's, her thing is that you can move into a new path. And so she works through role playing with him and try to see if he'll move on past his marriage falling apart and everything. But he really can't. So he also happens to live at his furniture store. And he's doing commercial. This thing I had a guy sitting right next to me for the first show, and we both laughed at this scene where he's doing a commercial for his furniture store, and he's playing a pirate. Yeah, it's called the Ottoman Furniture. So what's his name? Bobby. Bobby asks, that he says cut and everything. And he asks him, are you a pirate or are you a Ottoman? Because it's kind of, and it's very funny the way the scene works out. And then he brings the electrician, and he's complaining about there's an issue with the power and everything. At nighttime he turns off the power, but yet he still gets these power fluctuations. And they go in the basement, he looks at the electrical box and goes, who wired these? It was already wired like this, and there's two little things below, they're red, and nothing happens. So, and then we see that he lives in his furniture store. And all of a sudden, he's watching TV, and then TV goes off. And then he sees flickering lights, and he goes down there, and he starts hearing a sound as he's walking towards the wall, and he's leaning up against it, and suddenly he falls, falls into, they don't know we know it's the back rooms. And he starts seeing all this furniture. And he's looking at piles of furniture and stuff, and he's looking around, and he hears a noise, and he asks, is anybody there? And then he notices something standing down the hallway. He walks there, and then he sees this, what looks like caveman stand up with a thing on it, and it's a recording. Well, this recording actually comes from I think it's the satellite that we sent out there in case there was ever life with all these different languages on it, so that they could find Earth. And then he's still walking around. He's like, and he comes to this room, and there's a camera. He looks up and he sees the camera, and he's looking around. And then all of a sudden, he hears a noise, and he's like, and then he runs back to where and he's trying to find his way out. Eventually, he goes back, then he comes back, grabs a stool, and runs back out. So he goes to a therapist. And this is in the series, by the way, the whole thing with that. As you watch the series, the company Async was running experiments to open a way into the back rooms, and it caused it. While they were doing these experiments of trying to open it, this like you'll see in the series. Recommend seeing it before you watch the movie. This coordinates with that this company inadvertently caused the Bay Area earthquakes when the San Francisco Giants were playing in the World Series. Yeah. So it allowed it to open up these ways into where you can fall into the back room. So a lot of people have been going missing and everything. So yeah, this plays right into the story, and we see in the series that one of the workers went missing for 2 months, came back, he was drawing a description, trying to lay out the back rooms. It's almost impossible. Liminal spaces, meaning spaces between spaces. That's also what makes this actually very, very unsettling. Kind of a creepy movie. And Wayne goes back to his therapist, shows her a sketch, and she doesn't quite believe him. So he's going to go, I'll come back and show proof. And he goes to Kat, who's his assistant manager. And he gets Bobby, who we saw again using a camera. So for the commercial, and they go with him. He gathers supplies to go in there to record to show that he's not crazy. And another thing about the Backrooms, that the time is off. So it's different than our time. It runs different to our time. So, like I said, this whole thing, no one knows. Even Async can't tell you what it is. They don't know how big it is. As Phil will say later on, we're still going in and trying to figure out, we're trying to get more and more information. What is this? They don't know what to call it. We know it's known as the Backrooms, but yeah, there's no, understanding of how big this is. Yeah. And so they go in, and he put tape down. That's another thing you'll find. Like, there's the second found footage tape. She's found a hole into, she taped it off, and she drops stuff and goes in there and disappears in the back room. Then she does tape measuring, and something happens, and she falls in the back room. So the tape does play into the whole thing. And so he put a doorway showing on both sides so you know where to go in and out, which, if you look at the company Async, they've done the same thing. They've created a door in and out of the back rooms. And so he goes in there with them, and they're recording, and all this, yeah. And eventually they come to, and this is in the trailer, there's a whole, like, this where, they decide, and, yeah, and it turns out, without giving the ending of this movie, a lot of people didn't like the ending, but it plays in the whole thing where you're walking through trying to figure out, where is there anybody here? Then you hear something like in the first video of the found footage one, a young guy ends up, he's directing what they're going to make a movie, no clips into the back rooms, and then he's walking around and he sees on a wall, don't move. It can hear, be quiet, and then he turns around and he sees something, and it makes a weird sound, and he starts chasing him. So this is common, and if you didn't watch the series, you wouldn't understand the ending of this movie with this thing chasing him, and eventually, he doesn't get away. It causes the camera to fall to the ground. So there was a big time skip between the time he And this plays throughout the whole series with them going into the async, and they're not the bad guys. They never want to say, oh, they're the villains. And why? Yeah, and that's why it does. It distorts time. It can also make you go crazy. So the longer you stay in there, as and then with Mary, there's a whole thing with her mother. Her mother was we see her flashbacks to her mother being agoraphobic, being afraid of the outside world. Eventually her mother ends up in a mental hospital. This is not her in the plot. And eventually she ends up going to the back room, goes to the hardware store, goes to the furniture store, goes in the basement because she sees the flickering lights, walks through into the back room and goes, what the hell is this? And eventually she sees a wall where it looks like someone drew something of whatever this thing is that's clearly been chasing and killing people. And I'm not going to give away what it is. You have to see it to believe it. And eventually she sees Clark, and then he ties her to it, and he explains that the back room, whatever this is, he doesn't know what to call it. He left her a kind of creepy message about how he was gonna stay where he is. He's not coming. You're never gonna see him again. So that's why she went there looking for him. And he explains that whatever it is, it creates everything you see in the back rooms from our memories, which makes total sense for the series. Is that it tries to everything it creates is a reflection of the memories of people that went in there. And you see this at the end of the movie in these what look like people. It's the way that it creates people. It doesn't, whatever these things you call them, still life, whatever, are created, is that they're done wrong. They look somewhat human, but they're not really. It's because they remembers and then forgets. So I'm not going to give away the ending because people go, oh, well, this is too long. They didn't get the. If you watch King Parsons' series, you'll understand the movie a little more. And he does answer one thing, that the back rooms, this whatever it is, I think it's a living entity, that it creates the still lives to basically get rid of us, because we're kind of like a virus that comes in and messing with the back rooms. And so its consequences is to create things to deal with you. And it tries to recreate your life through your memories. So and everybody's good in this movie. This is the guy who works for Async that was at the beginning of the movie running through, and he's wearing one of these suits that look like hazmat suits. And the company watches this stuff, and Phil, he's at home. This is Mark DePost. He did actually, when people question if King Parsons directed this movie, he goes, yes, he directed this movie. He started it, I think, when he was 19, and because he's 20 now. So the guy's the youngest director to make a movie for a studio. And it cost $10 million to make this, and Osgood Perkins, the director, yes, also is one of the producers of this movie. So, and the fact that this movie's made a ton of money shows that people really are enjoying movies like this. And the creativeness of this story is that you're not supposed to learn everything. You aren't supposed to learn about total answers, some answers, but not everything. And like Phil says, he's at home with his family, and he was the one that watched Clark walk in and see the camera. And we see that later at the end of the Clark's, when he goes in the back rooms, we see Phil looking at and he later reveals that he goes in the back room because they're trying to understand this. That's not giving the end of the movie away. This is just, we find out that he's one of the people that have been in the back rooms. They don't know what they are. They're trying to understand it. And the movie works. And the acting is really solid. And, it's led by Jackie O'Four, and I know she's Scandinavian, Renee, I think. I cannot pronounce her last name. But she plays Mary. She's great. Everybody's really good in this movie. And even the people that played the still lives. You can see when you see it, it's like, ooh. And you meet Mary's mother. We never see, we see Phil's wife and his kids, and they're sitting there watching, and he realizes he's seen Clark, and that's when he freezes when he sees the commercial, and he goes, recognizes Clark. So yeah, but this movie, it's not that long either. It really is not that long of a movie when you look at it. It's about what, an hour and 50 minutes long. It doesn't feel like that long. I actually liked the length of it. I wasn't bored, and I saw it twice the same day, and I plan to see it again. So I highly recommend this movie for anybody. And word of mouth is why this and Obsession have done so well over the Disney film, and why it does better than even the He-Man, the not He-Man movie that they put out. So yeah, I highly recommend this film. This is Gilgamesh. I'll talk to you later. Bye.